on saw Nick man run out there. I don't know if he did. Chuck Mangione gonna be come down here.
Sir, you are going to have to speak more slowly. I cannot understand you.
Dang old make low mark that talk about them old that it blue.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you." If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
It doesn't matter what comes, fresh goes better in life. With Mentos fresh and full of life, nothing gets to you. Staying fresh, staying cool. With Mentos fresh and full of life, fresh goes better. Mentos fresh and fresh goes better with Mentos fresh and full of life. Mentos, the fresh maker.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another LegionCast. And we're going to be finishing, we didn't really start, but this conversation with Donald John Trump. In conversation with President Trump, this is from the All In podcast. I will make sure that all the links are there and stuff like that. So this is a good opportunity, again, for this man to get to know new audiences, new people, because quite frankly, I'm just saying this, we can't do another 4 years of Joe Biden. Whatever you think of the man, whatever you think of his policies that are not working. So here we go. You're not here for me.
Yeah, got to meet them for the first time at your house, and terrific. They did well. They might have started the whole thing. I don't know. I don't know if that court case was proper, but they were very nice, both of them.
Absolutely.
Really nice guys.
And I think maybe this is a good place to start in our conversation is, one of the things I think we heard a lot at that dinner was just the difficulty that people in business were having under this Biden administration. You got the crypto guys who just want a framework. They just want the government to tell them how to operate, and they can't get that. You got no M&A happening right now in tech. The real estate guys, they can't get loans because the interest rates are through the roof and there's a credit crunch. So I think one of the common themes we just heard across that dinner was that it was just so hard to do business right now. And I guess maybe a good place to start would just be, what's the number one thing, or maybe the top three things that you would do to kind of get things moving again, if you're reelected?
So I'd say regulation, and taxes. Okay. I gave the biggest tax cut in the history of our country, and a lot to business. It took them down from, look, as you know, they were paying companies were paying 40%, 45%, including state and city taxes in many cases. And we got it down to 21%. We'd like to get it down lower, actually, but we got it down. And the revenues were better than ever, even with the lower rate. We had a record revenues, which tells you a little bit about that. But also the regulations. And when I asked a lot of people, a lot of big people, a lot of corporate types, big corporate types, I said, if you had your choice between just the taxes or just the regulations, where did I do better? He said the regulations. I was the biggest cutter of in 4 years. I cut more regulations than anybody by far, not even close. And when I spoke to different people about the regulation versus the taxes, I don't think I've ever had anybody say, and the taxes were a massive cut, from 37, 38%, if you look at it just there, to 21%. I don't think I ever had anybody say that the taxes were more important than the regulation cuts. I made it possible to build. I made it possible to do things, to invest. I was able to get companies with a lot of money outside of the USA to bring that money back in. You know, we cut the rate, and it was crazy. The rate was like 55%. So that means if they bring the money back, they lose half that money before they even start. But it was also impossible from a standpoint, a structural standpoint, a legal standpoint. It was very hard. And they were able to bring back, I mean, Apple's an example. They brought hundreds of billions of dollars back from other countries into the United States and invested it here. So, but it's very interesting because I ask the question all the time, which was more important? And almost everybody said I did an even better job. And I got the biggest tax cuts. The biggest tax cuts, bigger than the Reagan tax cuts, but they found regulations, and the regulation cuts were even more effective. And that's where we had the great economy, and that's where we had the most jobs ever produced.
So there's this odd thing that happens in certain states where taxes keep going up, and then you start to see the states break, right? Productivity breaks, crime goes up, and quality of life goes down. But then people don't understand that taxation and all of those things are correlated. Do you have an idea of why that is? Like, why don't people understand universally that lower tax?
Because people are fucking retarded. And they listen to politicians who lie. They lie to them. They lie. Politicians lie all the time. You know why Donald Trump is so popular? He is not a politician. He's just not. He's not. Yes, he's a billionaire. His father built, then he built, and then billionaire status. But like politicians go into government being like, I don't know, $60,000 a year, $30,000 a year. Look at AOC. She's a bartender, like going, and now AOC is worth a few $1,000,000. It's not because of her brains or her boobs, by the way.
Taxation is better for productivity?
Well, they don't understand it. And it's such an interesting question because you look at some of these places like Chicago and New York and LA and so many more. You know, I'd hate to even mention the three because there are worse examples than that. You look at what's happened in Oakland and you look at what's happened into some cities that are disappearing. I mean, they're literally just crime waves. Nobody lives there except for criminals because you can't live there. You can't survive there. Physically, you can't survive there. And when you look at the kind of crime that we're talking about, and then they take the power away from the police can't do anything. If they do anything to stop it, they end up losing their pension, their house, their family. They end up losing everything. They get put in jail. And we're not talking about the rogue cops who do something really bad and should be taken care of badly. You know, be nasty. You got to be nasty to them also. But
I mean, police officers that break their oath and break the law, they need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent. That's not a hard concept. It's really not. And quite frankly, it doesn't seem to be a hard concept with this man. So I don't get it. This whole, ever since like the summer of love, you know, people been like going, oh yeah, it's like, no, lawlessness gets you nothing. Nothing.
mostly, I mean, these people, they want to really, like 99%, they want to stop crime. They hate to see it. They're not allowed to even, they're told not to do anything. When you see a department store that was so proud, they opened up a new store in a certain city, and all of a sudden, this, over the last couple of years has happened, this phenomena where 500 usually young people walk into the store and take everything. They have masks on. They walk out with television sets, air conditioners. They walk out with everything. This is a new phenomena that's taken place, and it's incredible. Look at drugstores. Look at what's going on. Like in New York, you walk into a chain. I've seen it twice. I don't walk into too many drugstores, but I used to love it. I used to love to walk around and just look at what it is, whether it's a drugstore or department store. But they told me just a little while ago, I had a meeting with some people, and they say you walk into a drugstore in New York, and everything's covered up with bars and glass. And if you want just a little thing of aspirin, or if you want to buy a toothbrush, You have to wait a half an hour to get a clerk, and they open up this vault, and they give you a toothbrush, or they give you. It's how do you do business like that? This is a phenomenon. There's never been anything like this. They didn't used to have theft of even the most minor items. They had very little theft, relatively speaking. They didn't have theft, but they had the police would arrest them if they did something. Today they don't. They have limits sometimes. If you steal less than $2,000, you don't get arrested. So nobody steals more than $2,000. It's incredible when you see what's happened to the quality of life in our country. And it's happened so quickly. It's taken place so rapidly. Nobody's ever seen anything. But you look at retail, and I know the big deal. It used to be a big deal when a department store moved into a city, or a certain store opened up even in a town. But it's usually the Democrat-run big cities where this problem is taking place. And I don't say that as a Republican. I just say you look at the 25 cities, the top problems, they're just about all Democrat. They're Democrat-run.
And they're also high tax, high regulation states.
Yeah, no cash bail, all of these different things that have taken place. They're phenomena. It's a phenomena. What's going on?
I'll say this, that like little cut between is weird. I'm assuming this was obviously pre-recorded, so they cut out the weird silences. So like where dude popped in and then Trump popped back on. But again, shout out to the All In podcast. You guys got the former president on, and it's so
on. Nobody's ever seen anything like it, and it has to be stopped. It's a horrible quality of life, and on top of that, you can't walk to a store. You end up getting shot or mugged or something. The level of crime in the cities, in these big cities, is out of control. Nobody has ever seen anything like it.
Mr. President, can I just ask on your point about the tax cuts? Larry Summers made a comment the other day, and I thought maybe you could respond to his tweet.
Hold on real quick. Somebody's at the door. I'm going to let this play. I will be back literally within less than 2 minutes. So, all right.
That the tax cuts coupled with the tariffs that you've proposed would cause a massive, I think he called it the mother of all stagflation, where you would have kind of inflation because of the tariffs. You would have economic decline because more money would start to fund an increase in prices with tax coming down, tax cuts being put in place. Can you maybe just comment on the comment made by Larry Summers and how we implement tax cuts without inflation?
Well, let me say that I respect Larry Summers a lot. He's been right about a lot of things, and Obama and Biden have been wrong. Certain things that he said turned out to be true, certain things. And I do have a good respect for him. He's a different kind of a guy, and he speaks his mind. I happen to be a big believer in tariffs because I think tariffs give you two things. They give you economic gain, but they also give you political gain. If a country is out of control on something having nothing to do with economics or having nothing to do with money coming in or money going out, but other things that are very political, because there are a lot of other things involved in countries, you have tremendous power over a country. Now, not everybody can say that, but we can because we're the big piggy bank. But our piggy bank is going to get smaller and smaller all the time because we're losing power. We're losing a lot of countries on the dollar. I mean, they're going like flies. If we ever lose that, that's the equivalent of losing a war. That would be unbelievable. That would really make us third world. We have lost so many countries. I looked the other day. So Russia's gone. You take a look. Ukraine doesn't sort of exist in a sense. Nobody knows what's going on there. But when you look at China is essentially gone. They're trying to get out of it. They're a primary competitor. Iran is not there. The other day I read where Saudi Arabia is willing to now go in various different currencies instead of the dollar. This is a tragedy. This is a big thing that's happening against our country, and we cannot let that happen. With tariffs, it gives you a tremendous power, as an example, not to let that happen. You say, you want to do that? We're going to put tariffs on your product coming into the United States. But more importantly, and that's a big importance, but probably of more importance is they tax us, we tax them, reciprocal trade. I think we should have a reciprocal trade act. If China's going to charge us $100 tariff or 100% tariff on a car, then we should say, you're going to pay 100% to us. You know, I put on a large tariff on China cars coming in, and it had a huge impact, a huge positive impact. And Biden only is doing the electric cars. I don't know why that is, because the electric cars, they're going to end up all being made in China, by the way. They're not going to be made here. The United Auto Workers are going to take a blow like.
Well, all the resources are basically mined in Asia by poor people, in Africa by poor people. Also, sorry about the fact. So the UPS guy was at this at the door. It's actually a part from my computer in front of me to make it. It's getting warm, so to make it run more cool.
Like no unions. Between that and people coming in, pouring into our country, unions are getting absolutely decimated. Absolutely.
President Trump.
But the reciprocal.
So what's weird too is that of course, the APWU, the American Postal Workers Union, basically the mail handlers, the people who sort mail, they throw packages, stuff like that. They supported AOC, and well, at least the ones in New York did during AOC's rally, which was literally just abysmal. Yeah. So, but no, unions are being decimated because, again, you have to make a profit to fund union dues, because the members of a union pay union dues to fund a union. If everybody's making much less money and inflation is through the roof, which it is, hello.
The reciprocal act is, I think, a very important thing when these countries, and I don't mean just China, we have other countries. You could take the European Union. They don't want our farm product, and they don't want our cars, and they don't want anything. We have a massive deficit right there. But you could go with many countries, and they essentially do things to us, and we should do things to them. Basically, it should be reciprocal.
One of the things we've talked about, President Trump, on this podcast a lot is the deficit. Under your administration, we added close to $8 trillion. Under Biden, it's going to be paradoxically about the same number. Seems incredibly unpopular in Washington to cut costs, but that's something we're going to need to do. What's your plan? And it looks like you're going to win a second term here. What's your plan in your second term to control spending? Can you get it under control? Is there the will in Washington to allow you to do that?
Well, the biggest.
Okay, so what he's alluding to is that the national, it's the national debt is somewhere in the neighborhood of, like, I don't know, 33, 34 trillion dollars. However, we spend a certain amount of money per year on all these things that need to make the country run. Under, I think, President George W. Bush, it went from 4 trillion to 5 trillion. Obama, it went from 6 trillion to 7 trillion. Under Donald Trump, it went from hold on, back up a little bit. Under Trump, it was about 6 trillion, excuse me. Under Joe Biden, it has exceeded into 7 to 8 trillion for this year, 2024. And rolling into 2025, again, it would be roughly around $8 trillion. The gross domestic capita of the United States is about $21 trillion a year. That's a lot of money. That's literally more money than probably about 130 countries in the world combined, which means we have an actual national debt of about $34 trillion. If we got our spending under control, we could actually probably pay the national debt down through the neighborhood of about, I don't know, 4 years per president, if they just cut things, cut all the fat, cut all the the things that I don't know, let's say aid for Ukraine. Fuck Ukraine. You know why I say this? Again, because The president of NATO, the head of NATO said, Vladimir Putin came to us and said, if you guarantee that Ukraine will never join NATO, I'm not going to invade. And he said, well, we're not going to guarantee that. Are you drinking? Are you high? What the hell is wrong with you? Get rid of that guy. Throw him in jail. Vladimir Putin said, hey, don't invade our border. Don't come right up on our border, and we're not going to come up on yours. And the president of NATO said, no, I'm not going to do that. Then you know what? You have millions of deaths on your hands, including the Democrats and about half of Republicans that all wear Ukraine pins. If you want to be a representative of Ukraine, go to Ukraine. You fucking assholes.
Biggest thing I think is growth.
There's no such thing as government funded, by the way. It's all taxpayer funded. Every American citizen pays a tax that goes to the government, and the government sends the money wherever, quote, they feel is necessary. It's weird. I didn't know Ukraine was the 51st state.
Growth, because we can grow our way out. As an example, we have more liquid gold under our feet. I use the term. We have more oil. We have more wells. We have more everything than anybody else. When I started, we were number 3. Now we're number 1. We were number 1. He's going to keep it that way until after the election. If they ever won the election, there's no more oil coming out. There's no more oil. They were going down. Oil is what caused the inflation. You'd have nothing coming out. It would be a disaster. So they were intelligent enough to let the oil wells continue to go. They're not happy about it. But if this election were won by them, I can tell you right now, we would see oil go through the roof because they would really close it up. Already, they're taking out of the strategic reserves just for politics because they want to try.
Oh yeah, they keep raiding, the reserves. What's up, Jeff? How you doing, man? He's over on Rumble. Thank you for subscribing on Rumble. I'm debating making a Legion Wire Rumble. It'd be under the same. You can make multiple channels under the same thing. But anyway, long story short. Hey, Jeff, how you doing? I don't know. I have too many YouTube channels. Why would I want more Rumble channels?
And keep the prices down as low as possible. But the big thing, we have tremendous growth potential, and we have tremendous numbers of dollars that can be saved through efficiency. The way we're spending money, hundreds of billions of dollars. What Biden did with the trillions of dollars that he borrowed for COVID. Now, I had a different situation. We were getting ready to start paying off debt. We were getting ready to make a lot. We had the greatest economy in history. I had to throw a lot of money at COVID in order that we didn't end up in a 1929 type depression, which we could still end up in now because of what they've done. But I threw a lot of money in, and we ended up not in a depression. And then we ended up with a very strong, I ended up with a higher stock market than it was just previous to COVID coming in, which was pretty much of a miracle, according to most. But we had to throw money out there in order to keep our country going. We would have ended up, if I didn't do that, we would have ended up in a depression. The problem is when Biden came in, he took trillions and trillions of dollars for COVID. He didn't use it for COVID. He used it for other things, but he took trillions of dollars out. And that caused a lot of the inflation. His energy policies caused inflation, and his spending, the unbelievable spending that they did caused inflation, tremendous inflation.
For Ukraine, again, let me highlight the quote, war in Ukraine has been going on for 2 years. They have written checks to Ukraine about 6 times per year. We're going into the 3rd year, and they're trying to pass. I'm sorry, I take that back. They passed a bill pledging $800 billion over the next decade to Ukraine. $800 billion over the next decade to Ukraine. And I just saw a new video on Twitter where Vladimir Zelensky is complaining more about. We'll get to it if we have time. but I'll make a separate video because you don't have enough money, you big idiot. Like, that man is a midget. I'd love to knee him in the face and punch him to the moon. Get rid of that guy. He sucks. He's imposed martial law, by the way. There's supposed to be a democracy. He's imposed martial law, postponed the elections, and he is a long residing president. Where have I heard that before? Oh, Vladimir Putin. It was weird. It's almost like they're taking from the same playbook. It's almost like Ukraine was just as corrupt as when Trump was impeached over Ukraine.
And it's going to have an impact for a long time to come.
Can you talk about your impoundment authority intention? You mentioned that in the past, that you could go in and reduce the bureaucracy and the spend. I always tell people my position going into the election is less that I'm interested in knowing what the government's going to do for me, and I'm more interested in knowing what the government's going to stop doing that doesn't do any good for anyone. And there seems to be a lot of that. And I'm really curious to hear, sir, how you think about using the impoundment authority vested in you as president of the United States to reduce some of the bureaucracy, wasteful spending, and create accountability. And is there a team that you've built around you to help build a specific plan on backing out of some of these issues?
Right. We have a lot of money floating around that should be brought back into the government, should be given back to D.C., to Washington. As you know, there was a lot of money given out over the last couple of years, especially my money was given out to help us with COVID. Then they took money and they have no idea what they're even doing with it. That money can be given back, and it should be given back, and things can be done with that money that are positive. But there are many, many things. I'll give you an example. Education. We spend more on education per pupil than any other country. We spend numbers and yet we're terrible at it. We're down at the bottom of the list, and yet we're at the top of the list. I am going to, very early in the administration, we're going to send education back to the states. We're going to give them approximately half the number of dollars, and they're going to have so much money that like they've never had before, because they can spend a fraction of what we're spending right now and have much better school systems. As an example, you could name many. You go to Nebraska, you go to Iowa, you go to many states. We'll do a far better job than we're doing right now, and they'll do it for a fraction of the cost. We'll save a tremendous amount of money and have better. Some states, I don't believe, will do it.
The National Teachers Union is run by a far-left weirdo who hates this country, who uses it to indoctrinate children and push LGBTQ plus IA2 plus, nobody gives a shit, fucking we too low, something Wong agendas. She sucks. You think that yes, she's a bureaucrat. You know why? Because she's a part of the federal government payroll, and she gets a huge old check to disperse on the federal level of education that she sees fit. That's what she does. You know who does everything better, right? The states, the United States of America. We're a representative, constitutional republic, democratic republic. The states are meant to be in charge of their own lives because the people of said state vote for what they want. They lean towards the representative they want. The federal government can't fucking pick California, Texas, Colorado, New York, Montana from a map to send the same money to, because quite frankly, none of them are from there. They don't understand the politics of said community. Montana is nothing like California, and California is nothing like Florida. Florida is nothing like North Dakota. This is not a hard concept. The federal government just vomits money at people, and they go, well, I mean, quite frankly, and let's say Ohio, our educational budget is, from the Department of Education, the educational budget in Ohio is only this. So, I mean, if we distribute a little bit here, a little bit there, a little we have funds left over to do what we want. The teachers union, the Department of Education, large government overbloats. spends money, your money. It's your money. It's your tax dollars. They used to not print it from air, but now they're printing it from air because there's not enough to go around.
A very good job, but they're going to have to learn to. But we have, I would say most of our states will do a much better job. I think all of them will do better than, you can't do worse than what we're doing right now, but all of them will do better. But some will be absolutely education, a factory in a positive sense, factories. We are going to close up education. We'll have a tiny little group to make sure everyone's teaching at least English and perhaps proper math, et cetera, but very little. Department of Education goes, and education goes back to the states and where it belongs. I mean, where it absolutely belongs. And you're going to save a lot of money. You can look at interior with that. You can look at environmental with a lot of that, where the environment can be controlled by the states instead of this big bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. I mean, what do you do when China's burning all the coal and they're sending the ashes over the United States? Because that's what happens. It takes 3.5 days and it blows over the United States. In the meantime, we're keeping things good. We produce clean coal. We're going to produce clean energy, but we have to get back to energy. We're spending trillions of dollars on artificial, weak energy that's not going to fire up our plants. Our plants have.
No, he's right on this one. Coal is the past. China is doing coal. The future is things that people don't want to talk about. It's not wind, it's not solar. That's fine. People should put solar panels on their house and it help with their electricity bills. Great. You want to put a windmill in your backyard that generates power. That's cool too. On a giant scale, no, we don't have the technology to capture enough. Also, at the same time, those giant windmills kill so many animals a year because birds fly into them. Just boom. So, PETA should be outraged. I'm going to tell you the future. You're not going to like it. Geothermal and nuclear. Yes, I know. You're like going, oh my God, you said the N-word. We have submarines. We have aircraft carriers that are run on mini nuclear plants. This isn't 3 Mile Island. That was in the 80s. You know how many I think it was 87, 89. I was 3. If it was 89, I was 3.5. We need to move forward. We are the most technologically advanced country in this world, and we use nuclear on our submarines and applicable military situations. It's not hard. There's not the same amount of waste that there used to be. And if something goes wrong, we have so many safety features, but everybody here's like going, nuclear? Do you not remember 3 Mile Island? That was the only event in the history of the United States that ever happened, 3 Mile Island. Jeff says, real quick, 100% solar here, but only run computer, light, internet on solar. That would make about sense. Which is fine too. Look, I'm all for putting solar panels on your house. If it cuts your electricity bill, great. Because families are struggling. But the United States needs to get serious. Coal is not the way. That actually hurts people. Nuclear has come so far in the last 30 years. We need to stop it. Stop it. It's almost 30 years since 3 Mile Island. Stop it. Like if you had a car from 30 years ago, you'd be like going, what the hell is this? What is this dinosaur? Kids from today's world, it's 16, be like going, I don't understand. Why is there a third pedal? Why does the thing where the shifts into gear, like going, it just jiggles? Like what's going on? That's how stupid we sound.
To be fired up. We have a phenomena coming up right now, and I was talking about it the other day to David, and that's AI. Little things, simple, 2 little simple letters, but it's big. And I realized the other day, more than anything, when we were at David's house and talking to a lot of geniuses from Silicon Valley and other places, they need electricity at levels that nobody's ever experienced before. To be successful, to be a leader in AI, the amount of electricity that is like double what we have right now, and even triple what we have right now. It's incredible how much they need to be the leader. And we're going to have to be able to do that. And a windmill turning with its blade, knocking out the birds and everything else is not going to be able to make us competitive. You'll have China.
What about nuclear, Mr. President? Yeah. So let me just give you a statistic.
China's
building 150 nuclear reactors, and they're only spending about $2,500 a kilowatt. In the U.S., we're not building any, and our cost to build them is about $10,000 a kilowatt. And China's about to build as much capacity as 20% of the total U.S. production in nuclear. We clearly have a problem here in nuclear.
We do, and nuclear is okay with me. And what we're doing is, if you look at Alabama, you look at a couple of states where they...
Sorry, you guys had to look at my face so close, but what did I just say?
built these plants, and they had cost overruns that nobody's ever seen anything like it, where they're costing $25 billion to build a plant.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm all the way off the grid. Large scale is ridiculous. Dude, you're living the life, man. I'm jealous. My goal is to eventually get there, turn what I'm working on into a business, leave the career world behind, and live off, not 100% off the grid, but maybe have a farm in the mountains and do things that way. I know somebody who's on board with the same idea, so.
Land. There were a couple of them built in the South. I won't mention the places, but you know the places. And they came out at numbers that I think the most expensive things ever built in our country. And the inspectors would go in, they say, those walls aren't thick enough, knock them down and build another wall. And, the environmental people were brutal. In France and in other places where they do have a lot of nuclear, they build small plants all the same. And if they need double the amount, they'll build two of them. As opposed to the nonsense that we've done where we build these massive plants and they never get built and they have cost overrun.
Also, at the same time, we don't need the massive plants anymore. It's not a 10-acre thing. Because again, we're doing it with our nuclear submarines. Yes, nuclear in both sense, nuclear powered, also with the bombs, the missiles. And nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. We've had nuclear-powered aircraft carriers for the last 25 years. And guess what? They don't go to boom. If you want a great channel to watch a guy who was a nuclear technician on a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, RK Outpost, Ryan Kinnell. Yes. He was like, if the YouTube career didn't take off, I'd probably be a nuclear technician at a plant. Because, again, he was a nuclear technician on an aircraft carrier that's still in service. Did we hear about the meltdown on that thing? No. Fukushima was a fluke. Shouldn't have happened. They built a nuclear power plant near tsunami territory. It's like putting a nuclear power plant in tornado country. Well, we're going to put it in Kansas and it's going to be great. You're like, who said who to what now? Like, what? No, it's stupid. Of course, the Japanese living on an island, so I give them a modicum of credit.
Of 300, 400, 500%. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. No, I'm okay with nuclear, but you have to do it in a way that makes sense. And they have nuclear applications today that can be built and can be built reasonably inexpensively. But nuclear certainly is very strong power.
Can I shift the conversation to foreign policy just for a minute, just to make sure we get time to talk about foreign policy?
Also, real quick, thank you everybody for being here, watching on all platforms. I don't care if you're lurking. I don't care if you're chatting. You guys are the best. I know this is a last-minute stream. I gave you 20 minutes notice. So thank you. Subscribe to Legion Wire on YouTube. That is my political channel. All said political content and live streams will be live there for rewatching at all times. So thank you.
Is that okay with you guys?
Yes.
Mr. President, I've really appreciated your comments saying that you want to bring a peace deal to the war in Ukraine so that people stop dying. And I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. But I've seen that Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, is talking about actually putting NATO troops or French troops in Ukraine as potentially a next step. And that could be a tripwire for more NATO troops coming in. Can you guarantee that no matter what, you're not going to put American boots on the ground in Ukraine? Is that something you can say definitively?
I would guarantee it. I wouldn't do it. No, it's different for France. You know, they're neighbors more or less. We have an ocean in between. It's different for Germany, although Germany is much less involved than they should be, and other countries. But, you know, we have a big ocean in between. One of the things I think is so unfair, David, I think it's terrible, is that we're at least $100 billion more than Europe, meaning Europe as a whole, put together. And the economies are similar size, believe it or not. That put together and us is about a very similar economy size. But it's much more important for them. It's important for everyone. You have to have, look, this would have never happened if I were president. It would have never, Putin would have never done it. And it happened for two reasons. It also happened because oil went through the roof and he had all this money to prosecute the war. But the oil was at a much lower level, the price of oil. He wouldn't have been able to afford the war. All of a sudden, when it hit almost $100 a barrel, he said, you know, I mean, he's one of the few to make money during a war because the oil has gone, and it stayed very high. It's extremely high right now, and it's going up. Oil prices all over the country are going up, as you probably have noticed. But I will tell you, that would have never happened. Ukraine would have never happened. The Israeli attack would have never happened. And inflation would have never happened. Those are three big things. Inflation would have never happened. But with Ukraine, and now it's very much, look, Ukraine is now, I read the other day where they don't have the soldiers, they don't have the manpower, they want to use children, they want to use old people, very old.
If that's the case, you lost. It's over. If that's the case.
People that are not really perhaps equipped to fight. They're not doing well.
The average age of their soldier is like 43 now. So they're they're literally running out of people. To make a peace deal there, would you be willing to take NATO expansion off the table if that's what it took to get the Russians and the Ukrainians?
Yes, because that's what Vladimir Putin asked for before he invaded. He said, do not make Ukraine a part of NATO. Don't. He's like, and this is documented too. You can Google it. You can literally Google it. The president of NATO said, well, you know, I can't promise that. And Vladimir Putin said, okay, then guess we're going to, as the fact that the United States funds the majority of NATO and the United Nations, by the way, we fund the majority of both. We should have majority say. And the World World Health Forum, the WEF, no, World Economic, the WHO, the World Health the World Health There's too many acronyms that all suck, right? The WWF, the WWF. If you're some male, okay, no, the World Health Organization is funded mostly by the United States, and guess what? They said, well, when the next planned, COOF event comes around, you need to give us sole power. No, you can eat a bag of dicks. You can fuck the hell off. That's not how we do here in the United States. Also with NATO and the United Nations, we fund you. We put in the majority of the money. The United States is, hold on, the United States is literally this, and the European Union is literally this. They're roughly the same size. So when idiots go well, Sweden doesn't have this kind of gun violence. Sweden is like a state of the European Union. The United States is roughly the size of the actual European Union. So you compare violence from the European Union to the United States. And then you go, oh, in the US, things are not so bad. You know why? Because we have the pew-pews. It's the same thing with this. No, the United States, we pay the most money. We get the most say. Fuck you. There should never be a president of NATO. There should be only the nations of NATO coming together. The North Atlantic Treaty.
To make a deal, would you be willing to do that?
So for 20 years, I heard that NATO, if Ukraine goes into NATO, it's a real problem for Russia. I've heard that for a long time. And
everybody's heard that for a long time.
I think that's really why this war started. I'm not sure that this war would have started. Biden was saying all of the wrong things. And one of the wrong things, he was saying, no, Ukraine will go into NATO. That's one of the many things he said. When I listened to him speak, I said, this guy is going to start a war. Because as you know, for 4 years, there was never even talk of Russia going into Ukraine. That would have never happened. Russia was not.
Hold on. I don't know who you are, but your name is awesome. Militia against Trump. And your comments even better. Trump farts like a horse. You know what? Bring on Farts Like a Horse 2024. That's what I'll say about that. It's a great joke, dude. Seriously, you get props for that one. I'm gonna steal this. You have no idea. Farts Like a Horse 2024. Oh shit.
Not going to attack Ukraine. As soon as I got out, they started to form along the lines. And I thought that Putin maybe, look, he's a good negotiator. I thought he was going to be doing that for negotiation purposes. Then all of a sudden they attacked. And I said, what's going on here? But if you look at the rhetoric from Biden, he was saying the opposite of what, in my opinion, you had to say. The things he was saying, and he's still saying it. He's saying things that are so crazy.
Inflammatory. Yeah.
I 100% agree. And, you know, it turns out that the month before the Russians invaded, Blinken told Lavrov that the administration was not only going to bring Ukraine into NATO, but that they thought it was okay for the United States to put nuclear weapons in Ukraine. So no wonder the Russians.
Holy shit. What the fuck did I just say? Ukraine could have sat there. Look, Russia had the Donbass region and, and stuff like that. It was minuscule. Ukraine is huge. It's huge. And it's one of those things that, quite frankly, the citizens of said regions, they're like going, no, we're good, man. We kind of feel like we're more Russian. It's all good in the hood. There's some fracturing, but fine. It's, the citizens are happy. Ukraine's happy. Russia's happy. And then all of a sudden, it's like, we could bring Ukraine into NATO. No. Vladimir Putin has said for years, that is my line. Ukraine is on our doorstep. And I'm going to say this again. And then I'm going to address this, the giant comment from militia against Trump that typed in all caps. These people who type in all caps, by the way, they're like going, I'm not triggered, you're triggered. I'm like, no, I'm laughing at you. But anyway, nothing against militia and against Trump. We haven't read that chat yet. So Putin said, no Ukraine, NATO. That would be like saying no Russia in Cuba. Oh, wait. Now we have Russia and Cuba. What are we doing? What are we doing? Cuba is a whole lot closer to the United States than Ukraine is to the United States. We done fucked up, fuckers. We done fucked up. All right. Militia against Trump. I'm gonna say this the best way I can. They said that about Hitler. That's where I got it from, since Trump and Hitler are so much alike. Laugh out loud. Oh my God. Are you serious? Come on now. Come on. They said that about Hitler. Yes, Hitler, Nazi Germany, the Third Reich, made a pact with the Soviet Union. Guess who violated the treaty? It was Mr. Mustache Man. He had the mustache. This is Trump and Hitler are not alike. No. Okay, so I'm gonna break this down for you because quite frankly, you seem to be slightly fucking retarded. National Socialist is also called Nazism, is socialism through fascism. Guess what the Nazis did to take over? They challenged the democratic Weimar Republic, and they lost. Then the National Socialists, the Nazis, went after the communists and won. Then they took over and forced the Weimar Republic through force of and it's also it's like fascism, terrorism, kind of same thing. Domestic terrorism is pushing your agenda through violent means. Where have I heard that from? I don't know. Antifa, BLM, I don't know, burning parts of cities to the ground to say that Trump's a Nazi or that St. George Floyd. I know. I can keep going if you want to. But anyway, so the president of the Weimar Republic, he died. And then Adolf Hitler, being chancellor, declared himself supreme chancellor, i.e. Führer, basically dictator for life. And that if you spoke out against the Nazis, you were to be violently beaten, put in jail, and your livelihood destroyed. What does that sound like? BLM, Antifa, yeah, anti-fascist, go figure. And quite frankly, the Biden administration saying that that there is hate speech. No, there's not hate speech. It's just freedom of speech. It's freedom of speech. You are on the wrong side of history. You're actually the one who is following up in a fascist way. You're becoming the Nazis. You just don't have the bands. I mean, if you put the pride flag, I'm sorry, the transgender 2+A345. I remember when the pride flag was just rainbows. That was cool. Now it's like this weird thing that I don't get. But yeah, militia against Trump. You're the one who's indoctrinated. Read a history book. I have a history channel. You want to talk about it? I'll provide the link. But yeah, where I got it from, since Trump and Hitler are so much alike. Ugh. This is the gayest thing I've ever heard. Are you serious? God, your mom should have fucking... I do like this, though. Trump farts like a horse. I'm going to make that meme. Put it part of the intro. Thank you. Trump farts like a horse. Well, he's a big man. He's 6'3". I'm 6'4". Trust me. When you get them burrito farts, there's no hope.
Hit the roof. I mean, you talk about provocation.
Well, let's say you were running Russia. You wouldn't be too happy. And that's always been off the table. It's a border. And it's always been, I don't think that they would have, if they thought that that was going to remain sort of a territory where you don't have NATO, but they don't want to have soldiers right on their border. They don't want to have it. It's always been understood, and that's even before Putin. It's always been understood that that was a no-no. And now you can go against their wishes, and it doesn't mean they're right when they say that. But that was very provocative. And now it's even more provocative. And they're talking about, I hear routinely, they're now talking about Ukraine entering NATO. And now I hear France wants to go in and fight. Well, I wish them a lot of luck.
Jeff says some people believe all the propaganda. It's scary how many actually. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is somebody who covers. And this, look, I'm going to be honest. One of my favorite periods of history, because it's so fantastical, is the Third Reich. They brainwashed so many people. They brainwashed so many people, then turned them on their neighbors. They othered their neighbors. Weird. Who? What did Joe Biden say that the biggest threat to democracy was? Oh, MAGA Republicans. All right, so we got the othering of the people. Then we got the burning, the violence in the streets of people beating other people up. That's weird. Where have I seen that from? Oh wait, the Nazis on the rise did that. Fourthly, war for the sake of war, just to destroy other people. Yeah. I have more, but at the same time, this will be fun. For my good buddy, Militia Against Trump, I have a history channel. You should check it out. Check it out. It's Legion Teaches History. We talk about the Nazis and the Third Reich because, quite frankly, they almost destroyed the world. It's really weird. I don't see Donald Trump and Make America Great Again destroying the world. No, I see Joe Biden destroying the world, funding Ukraine, an endless war in Ukraine, war in it literally in Israel and Palestine. No stop to that either. And guess what's next on the fucking docket? Probably China and Taiwan. And the US will be funding and sending money to all three of these proxy wars. And we're going to break the United States of America to where, guess what? If you really want to get down to brass tacks, you better find a friend. You better find a conservative friend that has a bunch of guns, because quite frankly, the last ditch effort, if our economy breaks, is the people who support the Second Amendment. Also, at the same time, if the U.S. falls, the world economy falls. It happened during World War I. It did. The U.S. experienced the Great Depression during literally after World War I, and the little world economy collapsed. You want to repeat that? Stop believing CNN. Stop listening to the losers on Twitter who are propaganda saying, "Oh my God, Joe Biden's the best president in the history of the world." Stop it. Think for yourself. Do research. Say, hey, you know what? Donald Trump's a racist. All right. Go on, not Google, and look for. Let's see. What's a great site? Which one is this? I use this. It's the one with the lion head. It is Brave. Use Brave. Go on Brave. It's an alternative source. Donald Trump's racist. Don't use Google. Stop reading the media, fuckers. You got to stop it. And I mean fuckers as in, like, again, Trump farts like a horse. I like that. I can't stop with that. Trump farts like a horse. Also, at the same time, I hope to see you again. I hope that Ahmad did not ban you. I don't want that. Freedom of speech, baby. Freedom of speech.
I think
I'm going to stop talking because the greatest president of my lifetime is speaking.
Sir, can I ask you about Israel-Palestine? So after October 7th, what's the
literally just talked about Israel-Palestine. They're going to reconfirm all this.
Right path to just resolve this once and for all and just move forward?
Again, it's so sad to me because it would have never happened. Iran was broke. They had no money. I sanctioned countries that wanted to buy oil from Iran. And I would have made a fair deal with Iran. I was going to get along with Iran. I was going to get along with everybody. We did the Abraham Accords. I think eventually Iran would have been in the Abraham Accords. We had 4 strong countries go in, and nobody went in since I got out. That whole thing should have been loaded up right now. It should have been full. They did nothing with the Abraham Accords that everybody said were great. They said, we're going to get the ultimate prize because of that. It was amazing. If anybody else did it, if a Democrat did it, they would have gotten they would have gotten every prize in the book, every prize in.
Barack Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize for what? Bombing Syria. Syria, and then after Obama bombed Syria, we left it to the Russians. Let's see, when was that? Oh, it was 2014. It's one of the platforms that former President Donald Trump ran on. No wars, no bombing people, no inciting other wars. It was weird. And now Russia has a foothold in Syria because we bombed the snot out of them. And we said, hey, you know what? Y'all have fun. Y'all take over. And now Russia is in Ukraine, and we're going, can you guys stop, please? You don't get to have it both ways. You need to pick a stance of, hey, no wars. Let's not do this. But no, we didn't learn our lesson, did we? We come in, we show up like a white knight, and then we hack and slash, and then we're like, all right, we're out. And we leave somebody else holding the bag.
In the book, but I did it, and it was a great thing that we did. It was a phenomenal thing. But when you look at what happened now and you see what's going on, it's very, 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 very sad. That attack would have never happened in a million years. Iran didn't have the money for Hamas. They didn't have the money for Hezbollah. They didn't have the money for any of the 28 other cells of terror or whatever you want to call them. Iran was broke. I say respectfully. They had no money, and they weren't given money. And actually, it was a big story when I was toward the end of my term. There was a lot of big stories that there was no terror going on because Iran didn't have the money. They had to survive. We would have made a deal good for everybody. Everybody would have been happy. The main thing is Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. That was my main thing. The deal was a simple deal. Iran can't have a nuclear, it can't have a missile, can't have a nuclear missile. It cannot have that nuclear capability. Other than that, we talk about everything. They would have been very happy. It would have been fine. And you would have had peace in the Middle East. The problem is, I had them at a point where you could have negotiated. A child could have made a deal with them. And Biden did nothing. He did nothing.
He doesn't like to negotiate.
A young man that
Biden can't negotiate. He's literally the memes that I have in the intro. And he's like, I'm the dang old mom, man, membership. But I said, wow, the mom, man, look, we need to get the mercy out here. We need to fire because the mom, man. So like, sir, you're gonna need to slow down and talk, and talk more clearly. All right, man. With the mall, man, like we need with the fire department. It's like going, what are you saying? Or the Bruce Almighty, like going, oh, do cock-a-boo-boo. What? That's Joe Biden. That's the meme. I threw the one in the middle of the George Bush one, George W. Bush, where fool me once, can't fool, get fooled, can't get fooled again. Like going, that's probably my
do nothing, or a young woman that knew nothing in kindergarten could have made a deal with Iran at that time because they wanted to make a deal. And Biden never took advantage of it. Now, they put back no sanctions, all of the different things that they gave them. China buys billions and billions of dollars of oil every month, many billions of dollars a month. Other people are buying. So Iran now has $250 billion cash. They made it all in 3.5 years. And now they're much tougher to deal with. And I will tell you, I got along great with Kim Jong-un. We solved that problem. Nobody was in danger. But this is a big problem. This is a real problem. And within 90 days or so, they're going to have and could have very well a nuclear weapon. And wow. Israel is a big
I just want to remind people real fast. I'll make this quick. Kim Jong-un was sending ballistic missile tests, no warheads, over Japan, launching them over Japan, showing that, look, we have rockets that can hit you. And we can put a lovely warhead on it that goes and just keeps going. Guess who stopped that? This guy. Oh crap. This guy. He stopped that. You know why? Because he went to South Korea and then he walked over the demilitarized zone into North Korea and shook hands with Kim Jong-un. Yes. And the whole entire media lost their mind. Oh my God, he's meeting with a communist. He walked. A president of the United States walked into North Korean soil and stood there and shook Kim Jong-un's hand. There has not been a president who has ever done that. Ever. I know, I'm doing all the hand motions because it's just that
is a big difference in Israel between Iran with a nuclear weapon and Iran without a nuclear weapon. And lots of luck in that negotiation. That's going to be a much more difficult negotiation.
President Trump, I wanted to ask you a question about Roe v. Wade. You promised your base that you would overturn Roe v. Wade. You added 3 people to the Supreme Court, and you delivered on that promise. This might be the issue that determines the election, and many people believe it is. Are you going to do a national abortion ban? Would you support that, yes or no?
So I don't need a national ban because it's up to the states. Right now, what I did is something that people have wanted to do from day one. 51 years it's been going on. And if you remember, over the years, you're too young, but over the years, all they wanted to do is they wanted to take it out of the federal government and move it into the states. And I got that done with the selection of 3 great justices. I got it done. And it was a big thing. But I will say over the last 10 years, or maybe a little bit more than that, they started talking about the number of weeks and this and that. A lot of different subjects came in. It was no longer just simply bringing it back. Every legal scholar, from Democrat to Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted it given to the states, because from a legal standpoint, from a lot of other standpoints, including even a moral standpoint, they wanted it brought back to the states. And what I did is I got it back to the states. And now the states are in charge and the people are voting. And some votes are coming out the way certain people wanted, and some votes aren't coming out the way certain people wanted. I mean, if you look at Ohio, I would say it was a more liberal vote than people would have thought. And you could say that for Kansas. And then you look at Texas, it was a different story. But the people of the states have got that issue now, and they're voting. And the one thing that we have to remember.
And what people don't realize about this is how the United States of America works. Again, a constitutional republic, a representative republic, a democratic republic. The states, the people from the states make the rules. The federal government just protects the borders of the United States. The federal government does not make the supreme law ever, unless it is passed the House, the Senate, through said representatives of the of the states collectively. This is where these weirdos, they're like going, oh my God, a woman's right to abortion has been taken away. No, you never had a right to an abortion. That's not an amendment. That's not in the Bill of Rights. It's not in the Constitution. It was never collectively voted on in the House and the Senate and passed and ratified by the President of the United States. This is simple civics. My mind melts when people are like, oh my God, a woman doesn't have a right. And they also actually flip it too for like, oh well, you don't have a right to a firearm. Oh, it was back when muskets. No, okay, hold on. For a woman's quote right to choose an abortion through the whole entire country, without question, has to pass the House, has to pass the Senate, and has to be ratified by the President of the United States. If one of these three steps fails, it goes back to the bottom. It's like you're playing Mario. You're like going do 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 do. You get to the next level. You get to the next level. Get to the boss. And you get killed. You go back down. It's not hard. The Second Amendment was different. It is the second and First Amendment are the most important amendments to date that we have. Freedom of speech from government or governmental tyranny, freedom of religion, freedom of press. I'm press. Guess what, fuckers? I don't care if you don't like it. I'm the press. Freedom of assembly, peaceful assembly, not like going. I kind of want to kick that Kmart's. I don't think there's Kmart's anymore. I kind of want to kick these, the Target window in because old what's his name? Because I'm assembling for George Floyd. No, you don't get to steal the freedom sneakers for old George Floyd. The Second Amendment enforces the First Amendment against a tyrannical government of any kind and place. You don't get to take it away. All right. Oh, it's been a long day. I'm tired. Sorry, guys. We might break this up. It's a longer interview. Yeah, we'll break it up. We'll go to an hour and a half, and then we'll break it up.
Remember that there's been a lot of radicalism talked about, and the radicalism is really on the left because they're willing to do abortions in the 8th and 9th month, and even beyond that. I mean, we have some people, the governor, take a look at the governor of Virginia, the former governor of Virginia, where he talked about we will kill the baby after the baby is born. That's a very radical stance, and hopefully that's all going to be taken off the table now. But just to put it simply, it's now up to the states. And like Ronald Reagan, I'm a believer in the exceptions, the 3 exceptions, as you know, and rape, incest, life of the mother.
What is up there? X-Men Forever. How you doing? Appreciate you being here. We're just, grumpifying people. People like this. Militia against Trump. Trump farts like a horse. Look, I'm gonna clip this forever. Trump farts like a horse. I'm gonna well, I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Thanks. We only got about another 15 minutes. This is a longer interview, and I'll most likely finish it on Tuesday after the fact of House of the Dragon season 2 episode 2. X-Men Forever says, hurting my boss man, friend Mike Clobby from Clobbering Times YouTube channel passed away. Oh, that's right. I heard about that, dude. That's there's no words on that one. Losing a friend is one of the most gut wrenching things ever. I've definitely lost a few friends through military friends through means that were not the best. So I feel you, dude. Sorry about that, man. God bless him and God bless his family.
The danger for the life of the mother. And we have a situation now where it's in the states' hands, and the states are going to be voting. The last thing people want, the people are going to be voting. The last thing people want is for that to go back into the federal government. It was always fought, and very importantly, and people wanted it, they wanted it back in the states where it belongs legally and for a lot of other reasons.
So you wouldn't support a national ban?
No, I wouldn't support a national ban. No, I would not.
Just shifting back to foreign policy for a moment, Mr. President, on the relationship with China, it's funny how Democrats and Republicans seem to have a unified voice and banging the drums on the rise of China. Do you think that war with China is inevitable? And if not, how do we avoid it?
I think it's not inevitable. I think it's unlikely. I know President Xi very well, and we got along great until COVID. Then I wasn't so happy with him because they gave it to us. I said it came from the Wuhan lab. I was right about that. They said then it started in Italy, and then it started in France. It started everywhere but there, but it started in China. And it was many, many millions of people died all over the world and cost the world probably $60 trillion, which is more money than China has and more money than anybody has. The death and destruction has been unbelievable. But I think it's high. If you have the right president, we can live at peace with China. We can do very well with China, compete with China. But we don't have the right president right now. He's not respected by China. He's being laughed at by China. And he's a Manchurian candidate. I mean, he's received money from China, his family. And that makes him, to me, somebody that shouldn't be negotiating. I think he's got a conflict of interest. But no, I don't see war with China as being inevitable at all.
President Trump, do you think that Fauci and our government funded gain-of-function research? And do you think we should really be pursuing the investigation deeply into that? And if we did fund gain-of-function research, what does that say about our government and taking ownership of it? Because a lot of us lost a lot of years. Kids didn't go to school. And it caused economic damage. As you pointed out earlier, the amount of money you had to spend to try to avoid a depression was really severe. And if we funded that, what does that make you think about our government? And then Fauci covering it up, if that is in fact true, what does that make you think about our government?
So if you remember, I'm the one that stopped it. And I stopped it maybe for a lucky reason or an unusual reason. I said, why are we paying money to China? It wasn't about gain of function or anything else. It was, why are we paying money to China? China's got a lot of money, and they're doing fine. You know, we're considered like, they want us to consider them a growing nation, a nation in distress, all sorts of things, because they always take advantage of every treaty by saying that they need, you know, they're an improving nation. I heard the other day they have all different terms for changing, but they're a growing nation. Well, we're a growing nation too. We're a nation that's becoming a third world nation based on what we're seeing. But I was the one that stopped that when I saw that. I was the one that stopped that. The Fauci thing is an interesting phenomena. I was not a big fan of his. As you know, he said, no, let everybody come in from China. I overrode him on that. I overrode him on a lot. But he wanted the people from China. When I heard about this, I stopped it. We had a room loaded up with people, and nobody could even believe it. But I stopped it. We would have lost hundreds of thousands of people more, maybe more, much more, maybe over the millions, but hundreds of thousands of people more had I not stopped people coming in from China.
Did he lie to you about the origin of COVID?
Well, I've always said the origin was, where it came from, where it originally came from was the Wuhan lab. I happen to
the China virus.
I think it escaped from the Wuhan lab. I mean, I don't believe it came from the bats in 2,000 miles away caves. I don't believe it came from other countries, as China tried to convince people it did. I thought it should have been called the China virus because it was a very much more accurate term than.
Because it came from China. And apparently saying the China virus was racist in 2020. Okay, you retards.
COVID. Nobody knows what COVID even means. Why is it COVID? But no, I was always.
But did Fauci lie to you? I guess is what the American people want to know. Did Fauci lie to you? And if he did, should he be prosecuted?
I don't think you have to understand, Fauci was a much bigger factor in the Biden administration than he was in the Trump administration. I didn't rely on him that much because I didn't trust him. I would say got along with him, fine, not really, but I didn't trust him. And again, I was the one that stopped the money going to China. I didn't like it. I didn't say.
And on top of that, too, Donald Trump was the one who closed the borders, closed all the traffic coming into this country. Because again, why do I have to do this? Because a president can close the border at any time for any reason ever without an executive order. It's just what he does. It's his way of doing things. So, close the borders from China. They're like going, oh my God, that's so racist. It's like, no, there's a virus. And look, Trump made a lot of mistakes over COVID. Not as many as Biden did. Because that was the end. Right? Literally, let's see what, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Oh, November. So literally 6 to 7 months before the 2020 presidential election. That's weird. It's weird. Nobody wanted to take the pokes. You know, Operation Warp Speed. Nobody wanted to admit that closing their borders was a good thing. And then post Biden winning in a wonderfully fortified, per the the Time magazine, you need to take the poke. You need, the borders need to be closed. Anybody coming across the borders needs to be poked. Do you see how these losers, the globalists, yes, they're globalists, flip it? Do you think AOC supports the U.S.? No. She's a dumb bimbo with big boobs. And she fools people. Like, stop it.
Stop it because of COVID. I didn't stop it because of anything other than, why are we paying money to China? It was strange. They should pay us money. We shouldn't pay them money. And one of the things I can tell you, the World Health Organization, so we pay them almost $500 million, and China pays them $39 million. And so I got out of the World Health Organization. They did absolutely nothing. They called it totally wrong. I got out. They called me and they said, we'll do anything to keep you in, anything. I said, well, why are they paying $39 million? We're paying almost $500 million. And they said, well, we'll work out a deal where you can pay much less. I said, well, now you're starting to talk. But even that, it was very popular when I got out. It was politically, it would have been very hard to go back in. People were thrilled that I got out. I could have made a deal to go in for $39 million. They offered me a deal to go in for $39 million, and I actually turned it down. I said, you know, it should be if you look at, we're at 350 million and they're at 1.4 billion people, right? So it should have been 25% or less than that. But I didn't want to quibble. But I could have gone back in immediately for $39 million as opposed to 500. Then a horrible, horrible election, which helped destroy our country, took place in 2020. And they went back in. And they're paying more than $500 million. And they knew I could have made a deal. Now, it's a lot of money, not when you talk about the world, but it's still a lot of money. But it shows you the stupidity of the whole thing. They could have made a deal for $39 million. Instead, they're paying much more than they paid even before. And that's the way the mindset of our country is. And here's the big part. China totally controls the WHO. China totally controls them. We have very little control over them. And now they want to give control over our whole country to them, which would be a terrible mistake.
Fauci brings up sort of the kind of deep state personality that you talked about in 2016 that's kind of like riddled all over the government. How much progress do you think you made, and what do you want to do if you become president in November? And do you have goals around the deep state this time around? And what are they?
Well, I have a lot of things. I mean, I did a lot of things in the FBI. I fired a lot of their top people, including Comey, who's terrible at what he did, a terrible person and terrible at what he did. I fired McCabe, and, I don't have to go through Lisa and Strzok and all of the lovers. And I fired the whole group of people. I got rid of them. And so many of the agents are so incredible in the FBI down below. But we got rid of a lot. You take a look at the World Health again. We got out of the World Health. We got out of this is a similar thing that, this is really similar to your answer, but we got out of the World Health Organization, which was a tremendous thing. We got rid of the Paris Accord. The Paris Accord was a disaster for us. We were going to pay $1 trillion, and other countries were paying nothing. Russia was paying nothing. China was paying nothing. It didn't even kick in for China until 2030, whereas with us, it kicked in immediately. So I got rid of the Paris Accord. I did a lot of things having to do with not only people, but tremendous amounts of money, because the Paris Accord was so unfair. And I said, when I do this, people are not going to like it, but I have to do it because it's right. People loved it. The public understood it. They loved it. And now they've gone back into the Paris Accord at the same terms and even worse than the terms I got out. It's really a shame. It's so many things. It's so sad to see so many things. I mean, the WHO, the Paris Accord, you take a look at these things, they could have gone back. If they wanted to go back, if they had it, they could have gone back for a fraction of what they were doing. And they're very unfair to the United States. We're like a lapdog for every other country.
Mr. President, I know you're running out of time here.
All right. I'm going to stop that right there. So, let's say the president is running out of time. Okay, so, nope. All right. That being said, thank you everybody for watching this interview. It was kind of the thing that waiting for his rally in Philadelphia, stuff like that. You guys are the best. I'm going to treat you to again the new opening intro. So with that being said, see you guys. Have a great time. Appreciate y'all. We're going to do this again real soon. See you guys.
Chuck Mangione gonna be come down here.
Sir, you are going to have to speak more slowly. I cannot understand you.
Dang old Meglo Mark had talked about them old that it blue.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you." If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Do